Hello, everybody. It's Chastity White Rose here, doing another live stream. Now, today is National Coming Out Day, and I wasn't previously aware of that because I don't pay attention to whatever National Day of pancakes or donuts or waffles or whatever it is. Every day is a national day of something. There's 365 days in the year, but there's more things that people want to make a national day about. But since today happens to be National Coming Out Day, I thought I would talk about some things. Now, people generally know my story. I have my Chandler's Honesty series where I talk to the unicorn, and people know my story in general. But I wanted to talk more today about the general idea of, coming out and gay pride and trans pride or LGBT pride and all that stuff. Now, you have to understand something. I came from a very interesting background. Well, I was raised in Christianity, and so I heard a lot of things, about how being gay was a sin or it was against God's will or something like that, that kind of stuff. A lot of people, in fact, the majority of Americans actually came from either a Catholic or Protestant Christian background. And in those religions, there's a lot of ideas about, people who are not heterosexual. And I want to say a few things about this because I believe that it's actually not religion that is the cause of these ideas. I actually think these ideas that people have about being, something other than straight and cisgender is because being straight, being heterosexual and being cisgender, where your mind matches your body, that's considered the normal because that's what's common. Most people are that way, and so they just assume that most people are that way, and therefore being that way becomes an assumption as part of the religions that people happen to believe, rather than the other way around. Some may disagree with me on that, but I think that's the way most people are, so that's what became the normal. I mean, if Christianity had been invented by a bunch of gay people, well, then they would say that being straight is a sin or something like that. That's just the way it would work. That's what my opinion on the matter. But back in the old days, when I was, 17, 18, I only knew that there was straight and gay. I didn't know transgender. I didn't know all these other labels that are of these modern times. And I consider myself kind of old-fashioned. I was born in 1987. Mostly the 90s was my influencing years, And so I remember a time when being gay or being transgender was either unheard of or very socially unacceptable. And times have changed. I mean, because I turned 35 this May. May 15 this coming year, I'll be turning 35, and I feel old. I feel old because it's like, wow, I remember how things used to be in the 90s and seeing where things are now. And to tell you the truth, I feel like people being gay and trans and bisexual, pansexual, asexual, all these things, all these labels that people, I feel like it's gone too far. Like, don't get me wrong, I feel like, yeah, be proud of whatever you are, but I feel like some people have built such an identity or a platform around being these things that they forgot to be a person. They forgot to be a regular person. And so in my daily life, I feel like I don't really share too much about my experience with these things because most of the time I'm just working my job, But I've had some interesting times recently. Oh yes, I've had some very interesting times because a lot's happened this past year. And some very good things have happened in my life. See, I work at Hy-Vee, and I work in the floral department now. And they let me wear my name tag that says Chastity, and people know I'm transgender. I don't even have to tell them, they just know I'm transgender. And of course, at work, I don't really talk about it much because that's not the place. But people notice I'm different. You know what I mean? People just notice I'm different. And I think people can tell. I think you can really, really tell what somebody's like. Just feel the energy around them. And I think it's like, well, okay. Here's a great example. Some people, they bring sexuality into everything, and other people don't. So for example, somebody might say that they did something up high that most people haven't done. And then one person, like my guess was, you climbed Mount Everest. Somebody else guessed you had sex on an airplane. I'm like, and see, that's just the difference between some people. Is some people, they immediately turn something into something sexual, and others don't. And the thing about me is, I like to be an educational person. I like to be a person to educate people on transgender issues and also asexuality, because those are my domains, because that applies to me. And here's what I think is so interesting is that a lot of people are curious about the unknown. They want to know things about people who are just a little bit different. And so some people, well, most people are straight. They don't even understand being gay. And actually, it's just like being straight, but it's opposite. It's not that hard to understand. But when a lot of people don't understand being transgender, or this new thing that happens these days, non-binary. My roommate or my river, identifies as non-binary. And that's something not a lot of people understand. And how I would define being non-binary is not being a gender, but being a person. And I think that's important, to just be a person, just be a real person rather than performing a gender. And I think to a certain extent, gender is a performance. People do this. Like, yes, let me explain something. I'm not the first to say this, but biological sex and gender are not the same thing. Okay, and let me demonstrate the difference between biological sex and gender. Now, biological sex is simply your physical characteristics. Your chromosomes, your genitals, the things that make you biologically male or female. Which that means some people are male, some people are female, and some people are both. There's all kinds of intersex people who have chromosomal or hormonal abnormalities, and I also fall under the intersex category as well. And I have so many proofs of that, but that's not the point of this video. See, but gender is a whole nother thing. Gender is a social construct, but I also think it's more than just a social construct. And what I'm going to try to explain in this video is a little bit hard to explain, but I'm going to do my best. Now, so for example, okay, I'll give you some examples, because gender is many things. It is the set of rules which govern what people are allowed to do or not do. And so, like for example, whether people wear pants or a dress, for example. You know what I mean? Back in the old days, women were forced to wear dresses and men wore pants, but women couldn't wear pants. Now women can wear pants, but then men are looked at strange if they wear a dress. Except that back in the old days, like in Bible times, Jesus and all those other people, you were wearing robes, which is basically a dress. Jesus wears a dress all the time, but nobody complains about that. So it's just funny how people have these ideas, but people perform gender like it's an act where they try to act like something they're not, and I always make it a point not to do that. And so here's an example. You know, there's one thing. For example, there's being biologically male, and there's having a Y chromosome, there's having a dick and balls, there's those kind of things. But that doesn't mean that they have to act like a man or smell like a man. And you know what I'm talking about, don't you? You know how men don't clean up after themselves? You know how they leave the toilet seat down and they try to aim and pee into the toilet while leaving the toilet seat down? And then the next person who sits on the toilet sits in that guy's pee. That's what I call acting like a man. And just because you might be biologically a man doesn't mean you have to act like one. Similarly, somebody might be biologically female, but that doesn't mean they have to be like, oh my God, let's get the mall and get some clothes. Oh my God, that boy is so cute. Like, it doesn't mean they have to act like a girl just because they are. So there's a certain way that people learn to act from others in society. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is that gender is a large part of an act. It's something you've learned to act like from being around other people that happen to be of a certain biological sex, but it becomes a trend. For example, the way an American acts and the way somebody from another country acts is going to be different because they grew up in a different environment. And let me tell you something. I work in the floral department, okay? And I come across a lot of people. There are people who were born in America, who have been in America their whole life, and there's other people who come from other countries, and you can tell that English is not the native language. They have an accent. I have a hard time understanding them. But I will tell you something. More often than not, those people who come to America from another country are nicer than Americans. Like, they're just so polite. They're just so nice and friendly. They're easier to get along with than your next door neighbor that's an American half the time. You know what I mean? And so there's a cultural thing. And what I'm saying is that gender is largely a cultural phenomenon where people learn to act a certain way, that a man has to act a certain way. Boys don't cry, boys don't cry or show emotion, and the women have to wear makeup and all that stuff. And honestly, here's what I think. I think that the goal of the LGBT community, which is not really a community, but much more of a bunch of random people who don't even know each other. That's what the LGBT community is. But if there's a gay agenda, here's what I think it is. I think it is to make people think outside the box and to lead us to a world where people are their authentic self. You know what I mean? And I think that as more people are able to be their authentic self, then gender becomes less of an issue. Yes, there's always going to be biological sex. I know that. And some people think that trans people don't know that there's biological sex, but what we're saying is that doesn't matter because that doesn't define who you are as a person. And just today, I saw the most interesting post, because I'm in the Trans Women Support Network, and I saw this person talking about how being a woman takes so much time. They talked about doing their makeup and their hair and all that, and I was thinking, well, that's funny. I mean, just because you identify as a woman doesn't mean you have to comb and brush and curl your hair. It doesn't mean you have to put on makeup. That's the thing, is if you want to do that, you do you. That's fine. But the thing is, one thing about me is that I try to not put on an act. I like to just be real. And I don't think that transgender people should be forced or feel forced into performing stereotypically like their chosen gender. And I know why people do it, because people want to be accepted. It's great. It's great when somebody, correctly genders you, and I have this experience where people will see the backside of me and see that I have all this glorious hair. I have such glorious hair, And people will call me ma'am from behind, but then I turn around and they're like, "Oh, sorry, sir." I said, "That's all right. You had it right the first time. This happens all the time." But we should not be forced to be something we're not. And I can tell you that this gender thing, it's something that you have to work to overcome, but also not let it consume you, to not let it become an addiction. And so a lot of the time I try not to think about it, but being transgender does result in a few different experiences. It really does. And the thing about me is that I don't go out of my way to look particularly female. I mean, I do look different because I'm on estrogen and I no longer have testicles anymore. So I look different and I feel very different, but that's not the conversation I have most days. But because it's National Coming Out Day, I thought it would just be good to do a video where I talk about some of these things. And I was also thinking that if anybody left any comments, that I could answer any questions that people might have. And if you comment on this video later, I can always answer your questions later too. But I think this whole gender thing is interesting to talk about. It's really kind of cool because it leads into some deep philosophical things. And what I find most interesting is this thing that I've been thinking about does the soul have a gender? And this what I want to mention is that I do think that there's a certain element of the soul that is a gender as well. I think that your soul can be one gender and that your body can be a different sex than people usually associate with that gender. And I think that is precisely what's happening with transgender people. That we are essentially a soul in the wrong body. It doesn't match us. And so I think that's precisely how you define what being transgender is that I always knew I have a female soul, even though my body is biologically male. So I act different. It's just kind of weird because people can just tell I'm different. And do you have any idea how many people have asked me if I'm gay? Well, it's weird. It happens so often, because people have gaydar, gay radar, or gaydar. And the gaydar don't lie. Like I am telling you, there's so many people, especially other people who are gay themselves, they just know that somebody else is gay or they know somebody else is trans. You just know it. And I know what that's like to just know something about someone. Because when I met my roommate River over there, we just knew we were different, didn't we?
We knew.
Yeah, we knew. You want to say hi or?
Yeah, I can say.
Yeah, come on, say hi, River.
Hi.
Yeah, you're way too shy, River. Come on, say hi.
Hi.
Yeah.
Over here, I'm very shy.
Yes, River was in loaf mode earlier. But yeah, but see, when I met River, he was such a chill bro.
Bro, dude.
Yeah, we worked in the health market together. We just talked like regular people. We were just real. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people are fake. They just put on an act and act a certain way. You can tell they're being fake, but we're just, we're like Amalthea the unicorn and the harpy from The Last Unicorn. We're both real, whereas all the other animals are illusions. I just realized that people have no clue what I'm talking about.
Probably not, but you know what? Basically, the shit is all too real.
Yes,
The shit is very real.
Especially in the morning. Especially in the morning, the shit is real.
It's very real. I'm gonna disappear. Bye.
Yeah, River is gonna disappear again. But that's my roommate. And the point is though that we just knew each other were different when we met each other. We just knew we were special, And you can just tell that about someone sometimes, where that somebody is different than what people see. Other people, saw River as some woman, and River wore makeup back then and all that stuff, but didn't look right. Like it just didn't look right. It didn't look real. It didn't look natural. You know, actually, River looks most real when he's in loaf mode.
Loaf.
Loaf. Oh man, it's just too good, you know. But I think it's about being real. It's about being your true self, and I think that people, well, here's the thing: people are confused because people don't act real. And to be honest, there is a certain amount of level of dishonesty and lying that is built into society. You know how when somebody asks you how you are, you say fine. You're not really fine, but you just give them an answer and go on your way and you want them to shut up. So people lie all the time. But I make an effort not to do that. You know, and so as I say, well, I'm having a rough time, but I'll live, you know. I try to be honest, and a lot of people when they're working their job, you can tell they're there because they have to make money. That's what a job is. You do something you don't want to do, and you get paid for it. That's what a job is. But there is also a time where you're working a job, you're getting paid, but it happens to be something that you also like doing. And that's something that I've gotten the pleasure of experiencing recently because, when I work in the floral department, there's a lot of things to do, and there's a lot of things I don't like to do, like taking orders over the phone, because it's so hard to understand people, especially when they have an accent. But I'll tell you, there are times that I really do enjoy my job. I really do. I like watering the plants, especially when the weather's nice outside, and when somebody comes and they don't know what they want. They want something to send someone for their birthday, or they want something for a wedding or funeral, and I don't always know how to help them. But what I like is when a customer comes and they want to pick out something. And so I give them a little tour. I show them what we have and show them what flowers, and I show them how we have vases if they want to take these bouquets, if we want to put them in a vase. And I like that aspect of the job because it's creative. Because one thing that you get in the full department that you don't get in any other kind of job is that in any other kind of job, the product you're selling is just a package deal. It's just a package deal. What you see is what you get. When you're a cashier at a grocery store or a courtesy clerk, the customers are just buying things off the shelf that all have a barcode. But when you go to the floral department, you get a lot more customization. You can take different bouquets of flowers that are there, and you can get a vase for them, bring in your own vase, or buy one that we have, and we can arrange it, or you can even just buy it and arrange it the way you want at home. You have options. You can do things. It's kind of make your own. It's like creating your own vegan pizza when you order Salpino. That's what it's kind of like. You get to do things your way. And so a customer will buy things, and sometimes I try to help them. I try to make things look nice for them, and it doesn't cost them extra. I like that. I like it when I get to do things like that. And I'm still not fully trained. I want to become a designer, and hopefully I will be trained more in doing more things that I haven't learned how to do yet. But I'm excited about my job. I love my job. And today, I'm resting up. I'm celebrating my roommate's birthday. My roommate's birthday is tomorrow, October 12th, but I'll be working tomorrow. I'll be working Tuesday through Saturday. So today is a relaxing day where I'm off work and just hanging out with my roommate. And because it's National Coming Out Day, I wanted to do a live stream, just talk about what it's like being different, you know? And the thing is, whatever you are, whether you're lesbian, gay, trans, bisexual, queer, asexual, or an ally, or whatever you are, let's simplify this. All these letters, this alphabet soup, and all of these different labels people attach to themselves. Here's what it amounts to. What it means is that you're different, but we're all different. But some of us are more different than others, and I am very different, which anybody who follows me knows. But that's the thing is we're all different, and I encourage you to be your honest self. Whatever it is that you are, it is that you want to do, but you're not doing because you're afraid. You might be afraid that your spouse will divorce you if they find out about your cross dressing habit, for example. That's a very common thing, by the way. Or you might be afraid that your family will disown you if they find out that you don't believe their religion anymore. Or perhaps you have an alcohol or drug addiction and you try to hide it and you don't want people to know about it because you're afraid they'll judge you. We all have things that we hide because we're afraid of people's reactions to it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm no exception. There were many things that I was afraid for people to know about. And so what did I do? Well, I talked to Honesty the Unicorn. We talked about many things. And honesty encouraged me to be my authentic self, to live as my true self, and follow the path of my true soul. And that's what I would advise people to do. So whatever it is that you want to do it. Because life is short. And also, on that note, my book, my first book that I published, Chandler's Honesty, The Truth About a Child's Past Told Straight from the Horse's Mouth. Well, that will soon be published as an audiobook. I paid a narrator to narrate the first 3 parts of my story, which is part of the first book. And it's over 4 hours long. And I don't know how many people will be brave enough to actually listen to it, but some people like to listen to audiobooks because reading is boring. Whereas with an audiobook, you can listen to it while you play RuneScape. So I hope that people do enjoy my story when it becomes available. When that is published, I will share the link to that as well. So I guess this has been a pretty good coming out day stream. I think this has been pretty good. And so if anybody has any questions about anything I've said or whatever, or maybe if you have your own story you want to share about how you came out as whatever you are, whether that's, trans, bisexual, gay, or hey, if you want to come out as straight, heterosexual, or cisgender, you can do that too. Be proud of whatever you are, whatever it is. So I guess that's been my thing to say for the evening. So I'm gonna hang out with my roommates some more and do what I can today, and then get ready to go back to work tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. Have a good National Coming Out Day, everybody. Oh, and party on, dudes.